Hi guys, I've seen a lot of videos lately of people doing layered canvas paintings. Okay guys, I just totally lied. Not only is this like not a trend that's going around or anything like that, but it's not even really like a thing where you essentially paint on one full canvas and then put smaller like strips of canvas in front of it. Really the only tradition that I'm following here is the time-honored tradition of artists going insane. It's a lot like resin pouring paintings, right? Where you'll paint something on the back and then pour a layer of resin and paint a little bit more on top of that, and you get a really cool three-dimensional effect. This is all experimentation. There's a lot of trial and error that's gonna go into this. That all said, let's get started. So the first thing I needed to do, of course, was to plan out my painting. I decided that I wanted to make two little people, one of them all in one piece and attached to the back of the painting, and the other one broken up into these little strips. I wanted the one that was all held together to be kind of pulling the broken one back together. So I actually went ahead and made those strips, as you can see here, and started playing with the light and dark areas until my co-artist here came and told me that I was done planning and it was time to either pet her or go start building my painting. And yes, I do mean building my painting. I actually made the stretcher bars with some molding we had in our basement that just wasn't being used, and that added some nice extra depth to the painting because it's a little bit taller and has that texture that you wouldn't get in store-bought stretchers. And then since I needed to actually sew one of the figures onto the back piece of canvas, I decided to hide that seam and kind of camouflage it by simply making a bunch of other seams all over that piece of canvas. So I folded it up and sewed those lines in, and then it was time to stretch my canvas, which was more or less like stretching any other canvas, except that I didn't wrap it around, and it was extra important to pull it nice and tight so that I wouldn't get any puckering around those seams, which of course I still did because I didn't pull it tight enough. It actually took me an embarrassingly long amount of time to realize I was going to have to do something with those flaps around the edges. It wasn't like a hard fix at all, but I definitely should have noticed that earlier in the process. And since I had those little puckers and all those little wrinkles, I was able to just pull out an old trick for dented canvases where I just got the whole thing wet. That pulled all those fibers tighter and fixed the whole problem. If you don't know what I'm doing here, I'm putting gesso on the canvas, which just kind of seals everything so the paint won't seep into it as much and makes a better surface for painting on. Plus it made it all nice and uniform white, which was good. And then I start putting on the background. So I decided in the end to go with a very dark background so that everything else would stand out against it. For the edges, I made this spacey splattery texture, which is really fun. I love doing splatter painting, but I don't usually have a whole lot of reason to do it, so I enjoyed this. And then for the main background, I just put a very, very simple landscape. You'll see in a second here that I painted on a tree, but it's like super simple, looks like broccoli. And I did that because I was going to paint over this with a layer of thinned out black paint to make it all really, really dark. So I wanted everything that was visible through that to be really easy to recognize. So I went with very, very simple shapes so that hopefully people would be able to tell what was back there. Yeah. I'm really glad that worked as well as it did. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch on this person who's going to be back here. I'm not going to worry about having perfect proportions. I'm not going to worry about including much detail. And then when I'm happy with how that looks, then I will start painting him in. And I'm a little nervous about that because it's been kind of a long time since I've painted a person. But I'm always eager to do things that I haven't done in a while and I'm not confident about. So naturally I procrastinated painting the actual person and their actual face by first painting in their clothes. So I decided to put her in a white robe, dress, I don't know, kimono, I don't know. So naturally I began by painting it in with yellow, then red, then blue, and then at the very end went over parts of it with white to make it clear what color it really is, while preserving as much as I could of those more colorful spots for the shadows, which I think made a really interesting, beautiful kind of texture and added some richness, some interest to this painting that I think came out really, really well, if I do say so myself. Sadly, all good things must eventually come to an end, and I did actually have to work on her head and her skin. But I was able to procrastinate refining that all for a little bit longer. I'm really happy with how her dress robe thing looks, and I'm really happy with her hair. I think it's so fun and interesting, but I cannot for the life of me make a kind of texture that I like on her face that feels like it matches those. But I've spent quite a few hours just messing with her face all day. I feel like she's just getting worse. Yes, it's flawless. So I want to let the paint that's currently on her face dry before I paint over it. But more than that, I need a mental break. Stepping away to think about other things and do something else, give your brain a break. You come back, maybe you're feeling better, maybe you're just more open to a different idea, and it works that time. Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to make this work, and inspiration will strike me in the morning and I will just make her gorgeous. And make her gorgeous I did. After about 100 more layers of paint. She had cool tone skin and warm tone skin and completely whited out skin in between layers. I moved her features around. I did all sorts of things. But eventually I came up with something that I didn't hate and called it good enough and cut her out. And actually all throughout the rest of the process I kept touching up her face, so by the time I was officially done, I actually kind of like the way that she looks. And then I got to that magical best part in every painting tutorial ever. Wow. Let's do it again. Oh, yeah. So satisfying. And then it was time to put some canvas in front of her. Not quite like that. So cutting out these strips was actually a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. I kept cutting them too short or at angles that I realized I wasn't going to be able to keep them at once they were pulled tight. I actually cut some of them out of this very wrinkled up canvas that you see here, and then had to cut some of them from a normal flat piece of canvas. But eventually I did get them all made and at good sizes, figured out how to arrange them. I'm really glad I thought to number them. It would have been a lot harder. And got them all gessoed, and then actually went and wrinkled up the ones that were still flat. And then it was time to put in the final layer of painting, this light background here for my other little character. And then I got to paint her in, which was a lot easier because her face wasn't visible. Okay friends, I've been mucking around with this hair color for a while, so you can see this is definitely not what I want it to stay as, but this is a layer that I want to let dry before I paint over it again, because I keep like just making it muddier and grosser as I mix more layers of paint on top. So I'm gonna like leave for a little bit, totally leave for a little bit, so that way I'm not tempted to start painting over it before it is fully dry. So when I came back, not only did I paint in her beautiful hair and fix up her clothes, but I decided to actually give her hands instead of making up an excuse. A decision I'm much more proud of than dropping all of those strips on the floor like 30 seconds after they were done. But I was able to get them all attached and pulled at the angles that I wanted them to be, and I was able to mostly just use strategic gluing to hold everything in place. And while I waited for that glue to dry, I just used bobby pins, which I don't know if you'd call it a confession or a brag, but I definitely use bobby pins a lot more often for my paintings than my hair, which I guess tells you a lot about what kind of woman I am. And then it was essentially done. I did touch up her face one more time because I didn't like her lips, and I fixed up a few small errors, but then I was ready to just spray it down with some protective varnish and declare this project a success. I hope you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making it, and please let me know down in the comments if you would like to see a longer video including such highlights as my thoughts on the pros and cons of using a hair straightener on gessoed canvas, and that time when I honestly thought that I had forgotten how to use a hammer. I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Hi, hey Coco. Hi guys! I should probably decide what I'm gonna say. Please let this be the last time I film this. Please let this be the last time. Okay, now I need to turn the camera off. Yeah, I need to get up and turn the camera off, silly.